So many things are changing this year with the situation that we're living. For those of us who've actually started a ketogenic lifestyle this year, this is the first Christmas you'll be doing keto. So we want to talk about what traditions you are putting down and what new ones you might want to pick up to help yourself to enjoy Christmas this year despite the circumstances. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. I'm Violet.
And I'm Pat.
We have a list.
Let's go. First tradition we obviously put down this year, I guess, like our candies, right? Candies, candy canes, chocolate,
It's funny.
etc.
I was never a candy cane person.
No,
I don't eat candy. So like let's be
Yeah.
clear. Like I've never been a candy person. It hurts my mouth. So it was more chocolate for me. For you, I guess you did eat candy canes.
no, not really. I think
Oh,
it was
you either?
yeah, no. Me neither. Like it was more like chocolate, like you. I think. Like I remember, like in my family, we used to have those like plates with chips and chocolates, and those rosebuds. So yeah, it was
Which
more.
are not necessarily Christmas candies, right?
No,
But
it's
but yeah,
true,
I remember
but-
after 8 chocolate with the
Oh,
mint
yeah.
inside. Like again, that was
Yeah.
a thing for some reason. Every holiday, we would have that.
So for sure, I was going more towards the chocolate plates of food than the chips or even the candy cane. I remember, like, I think last year I threw a box of candy canes that I probably had like for maybe 3-4 years in my cupboard. So even my sons are not too much into candy canes actually. And
Well, this is the funny thing that I think we see now is like I do realize our kids, and this is going back before we even started keto. Like we would put candy canes on the tree as part of the tradition, and usually I actually put chocolate on the tree because I just like chocolate, but usually the chocolate would be gone, and the candy canes would eventually be thrown in the garbage. So it's true. I remember that. But these are things. It's like, so how hard is it to put down candy canes for me? Not at all.
no, yeah.
Right? So I wonder for all you guys out there, like, are there things that were traditional that for you didn't really engage it anyway? So it's like not a big deal to put it down. So like the typical junk food that we would see would be that Christmas, those candy canes, the chocolate, the log, the Christmas log,
like the
Christmas cookies. Oh, the sugar cookie things. Like, okay, I think I did eat a bit of those. Again, not my favorite. If there's no chocolate in a cookie, I'm really not that. Or at least I wasn't that interested in it. So for all of us, like those things now are like, well, what do we do? Do we find keto versions of those? So this is a question mark for later.
So do you say your mom's traditional food that you would miss the most, or that like you put down but you have some regrets, like leaving off the table because it was not keto friendly?
Okay, I don't know if I have regrets about it, but I did put down. I do miss. Well, there's actually 2 things.
Okay.
I'm going to go back a little bit further in history. I miss my grandmother's pone, which was something that was made around Christmas. Like that was like waited for all year long.
Okay.
And we haven't had that since she passed. And my mother makes like the best sweetbread that you can possibly. And sweetbread is not like bread. It's like a cake bread sort of thing from the islands. But she also makes pudding, which is another kind of cake. Actually, she hasn't made that in a long time. These are 2 things that we would traditionally have at the holidays that I remember like looking forward to. Now, granted, my mom does make bread and pudding at different times of the year, but it's not something that you have all the time. I think the other thing that would happen just around the holidays would be sugar cake, which is this coconut and sugar thing. It's more like a candy, really. I don't know why it's called cake. I mean, I'm sure this piece of that size, you're getting 17 grams of sugar in one shot. But I remember eating those when I was growing up. So these are the things that I'm like, those are traditional things that we will no longer indulge in.
For sure, before keto, I remember those sweet bread your mom used to actually bake one for every family member that was at a party. Like it was countless number of of breads that were like when you got to the party, and oftentimes like even before we were keto, like the morning after and the morning after like the party, we would have that for for breakfast or for lunch, like a piece of sweet bread. For me, I don't remember my mom or even my grandmother, like, because they both passed, but we're not into sweet. I think the thing I missed most, my mom used to make those little rolls with ground beef and a mix of spices that was so delicious, and I completely lost the recipe actually of that, but that is the main thing that I think I miss the most about Christmas.
You said rolls. What is it rolled in?
No, it's a little, like, those bread, like a lobster roll, like
Oh,
in
so it's
but
bread.
it's a bread. Yeah,
Okay, well, it's
it's a
still
little
carbs.
sandwich.
Okay,
Like, it's a
I
little
thought you were saying
sandwich.
it wasn't carbs. Okay,
No. It was like totally carbs.
okay,
But just
but it
the
wasn't
but
sweet.
but
Okay,
honestly, the meat by itself would probably be good, even though there was a little bit of vegetables that probably, I don't even remember. Probably onions that weren't there. But she was also making some meat pies though that were really good. But like
okay.
with the potatoes and everything.
And what about the meats? Like I know for sure our family there would be a turkey, and there would be a ham, like a big ham, and there would be a big pork roast,
Yeah, some,
and there would be chicken. To go alongside those meats, you would have lasagna, rice, macaroni pie. So like there was a lot of food.
mhm.
Also, aside from all the junk food, just think about what it used to be if you're coming from a world of standard American diet. Now we're in a keto world. Like, but the whole day was about, well, hanging out and eating.
Hmm.
I don't even know how it became a tradition. It shouldn't have been a tradition, but for
Hmm.
some reason, I always seem to be up on the 24th wrapping something.
Oh yeah.
And it's like I
True.
cannot seem to get
To,
myself
to wrap in advance.
organized. I mean, that's not a keto thing, but it's just like a funny little ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Because being up too late isn't good for your health, just
Mhm.
in the sense that, like, you should be sleeping. I think
Oh.
the thing that I'm also just realizing as we're thinking back on Christmases past is how little attention we paid to our physical health and all of this stuff.
Mhm.
Like, we were so focused on having a fun party that we would sacrifice our sleep, sacrifice our nutritional food, even if what we thought was healthy. I mean, there's no way that we could say a piece of sugar cake this big was healthy.
Mhm.
So like there's certain things that we just kind of knew we were doing that we shouldn't have been doing. And I will add to that all the different beverages that we would have. So I remember that there was alcohol almost at every, I can't, no, I would say at every
Mhm.
holiday party there was alcohol for sure. There was, I remember my mom used to make this punch that had like a bunch of stuff in it that, like, looking back, was it healthy? Like all kinds of soda and this and that for us
Yeah,
kids to
like
drink, and it's like
juices.
juices and all kinds of stuff, and yeah, like just for us to have a
Mhm.
fun drink too. So like I don't
Yeah.
think that that was particularly healthy. Of course, there was soda. Was it ever diet? I think I only started drinking diet soda much later, but even that's
Mhm.
not the most healthy thing. So I think, like, just eggnog wasn't a part of our tradition,
Mhm.
but I think I remember having it at someone's, on like around that time. Like I remember getting
Oh,
introduced to it and then kind of liking it and being like,
oh yeah.
you
I
know.
never actually was too much into eggnog. It's something I would drink, and like you, I started, or I tasted it later, like in life. But it's something I never really was really fond of, I guess.
Good for you,
But
because it's
yeah,
not
it's
necessarily
no.
something that
It's really sweet. I know it's really sweet,
it's such a
but
sweet drink.
yeah.
But these are the things, right? Like we don't even think about it. We
Mhm.
just would drink these things and not even give it a second thought. So, like,
Yeah,
I
but
think today, if we were thinking, like, what's the difference? Like, how is Christmas going to look different for? So how does it look
for
different for us? And what are we proposing
yeah,
for
sure.
you guys? Because all of these things we're talking about seemed super
Mhm.
fun back when we were doing it, until now we're looking back and realizing, like, I mean, for me, anyways, the
Mhm.
hit that my joints took from all of these fun foods, right?
It's gonna be your third. Is it gonna be your third Christmas now on Keto?
I did 2018, I did
18. Ah, okay,
2019.
this
So
is
yeah, this is going to be my third one.
your third one. Okay.
And well, interestingly though, this for transparency, my first one in 2018, I started keto in April of 2018. So
Okay,
I
so
was very, very
well into.
comfortable in my food choices by the time I did Christmas that
Mhm.
year. But I know some of you are like coming into this, maybe you're a month in, maybe you're even just weeks in, right? And so I think what we're trying to do right now is help you to see that there's a way to do Christmas and be comfortable and like enjoy what you're going to be eating. And you know what? I'm going to say this right away. You're going to enjoy what you're eating much more the next day, because when
Mhm.
you wake up and you still feel good, like honestly, that is, if there's one reason to eat properly, it's that waking up that next day and still feeling good,
Mhm.
worth it all. But like, what are the
So
things that we are encouraging, I think, right now?
for sure, the first thing I think is meat. The safest, your safest bet is meat, whether it's ham or turkey, or chicken or even beef. Just be careful if there's some stuffing inside the turkey. The turkey oftentimes is made with potatoes, so be careful with that.
Really?
Yeah,
We didn't have.
yeah. No, my mom used to make it with potatoes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We just use. I think my mom used crackers to
Okay.
make it.
Okay, so there's some form of carbs. I think the
Oh yeah, for
crackers
sure.
too.
There's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, you can't have
Mm.
stuffing that's not carbs. What are you
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. So, what are the sides though? Like, if for some of you that like to have a side with your meat, vegetables, salad, vegetables. Be careful. Like for sure, like potatoes, carrots are very popular on Christmas. So go with the lowest glycemic vegetables
So I think that
if
one of the
possible.
things that you're pointing out that's really important for us to pay attention to right now is this whole idea of wherever you're going to be at Christmas, making sure that there is a plan for some kind of side dish for you.
Yeah.
Because I think what you're pointing out right now is like, yeah, it's true. There's all kinds of side dishes. Will I be able to eat any of them?
But although, like at your mom, there's not a lot of the main side dish that I've seen in the past 5 6 years is rice, and we don't eat it.
Rice,
So,
lasagna,
oh, rice,
macaroni
but I
pie.
don't consider lasagna as a side. But
Yeah,
like,
but that's why it's there. It's a side.
okay, it's a side. Okay, okay, okay.
It's a side.
So basically, we've been eating the chicken and the turkey and the pork. Like we've been eating meat.
Mhm.
Did we? Sometimes we did bring an avocado though. So if it's accepted by your host, something to consider, just maybe bring an avocado.
What I will say is that the first year, I brought a bunch of food that I thought I was going to want to eat.
Mm.
In the end, I didn't really eat much. And this is the interesting thing about me and the holidays is that I'm so busy flitting around and talking to people that I usually don't end up eating much anyway. But it's this thing where you're so afraid to be caught off guard
Mm.
that you're like trying to cover every base. But the truth is that still I was concerned about it. So I showed up
But
with salad, I showed up with vegetables, I showed up with avocado, I showed up with all kinds of things that I ended up like not eating.
yeah.
Right? I think probably I had 2 pieces of fried chicken
Mm.
that whole night. But it's okay, right? I
Yeah.
think the thing is like to be prepared. It's better to be over prepared than under prepared. And I think that's part of what we're trying to show you here is that I brought a bunch of stuff. I think that you guys could too. I don't believe that people who invite you for the holidays care if you show up with food for yourself because if you can't eat what they're cooking, they're not expecting you to starve.
Mm.
I think that most people just want you to be there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Most family members, most friends, whoever's inviting you over, they just want you to be there. They just want you to come and have a good time.
Sure. What about alcohol, beers?
Okay, so when it comes to alcohol, everybody has to take their decision because if you go with an alcohol that has a low carb count, so you, for example, I mean, beer wouldn't fall in
No,
there,
I know. No,
but like
that's not.
most, there's a lot of wines that have a very low carb count. Like a
Mm.
bottle can have like 2 grams of carbs for a whole bottle. We actually think we've been seeing one that had 1 gram of carb
1.5.
for a whole bottle. So like if you go for a bottle that has a very low carb count, then you actually could indulge. The problem isn't the carb count if you choose well, it's the alcohol.
Mhm.
So the thing we need to keep in mind is that our body goes for the most toxic thing first. And in this particular case, alcohol is more toxic than carbs. So what that means is that if I'm eating and drinking, when my body is trying to manage me, it's detoxifying the alcohol first, which means that the carbs are kind of circulating a little longer than they would have been if I was just eating. It's the thing to keep in mind, right? I encourage you to just, pay attention to what you're doing. Now, if you want to be the safest you possibly be and you know you're going to drink, have a carnivore night. Just eat meat. That small tinge of carb that's in meat, it's going to keep you at least at the lowest of low amount of carbs you could have taken in.
So as for alcohol, beer, usually the beers, maybe if you go with the ultra low, the light beers, I think some of them like has a low carb count, but low, relatively low. I mean, like I think the lowest beers I've found, the light beers have 5 or 6 grams of carb maybe per bottle, but you
When
have
you
to
say
check.
per bottle, you mean like single serving?
Yeah, single serving. Yeah, if you
But
go
that's
to
like
your light
25% of
beers,
your day.
yeah. So if you go towards the light beers and they fit, it could work. Wine are safer, but like check on the bottle. Usually, like the white wines have a greater range of sweetness. Let's call it like that. We've seen like the one we drink have 1.5 grams per whole bottle per liter, where you can find like 15 and 20 grams per liter for the dessert wine and the sweet wine.
You really should be checking the carb count of your wine before you drink it.
before you. Yeah.
That way you know how much of the wine you actually can drink, because keep it in mind, like I said earlier, it's going to be alcohol first and then those carbs. And
But
then and that's the
mm,
carbs you drank and the carbs in the food that you ate. So
yeah.
you want to just be sure.
But like you said before, like if you, why not bring your own wine? Like usually your host probably won't mind that, and that's what we usually do. And the other thing, maybe you want to keep also as a possibility, like the hard liquor. So the hard liquor, but not the sweet kind, like not yeah, the ones that you mix and with like. So those are to be avoided, but like rum, vodka, Scotch
Has
whiskey,
yeah,
bourbon. So the one, even rum, like surprisingly enough,
has
rum is
some
a
good
hard
carbs.
liquid, and not a lot of carbs like in those.
Oh, there's not a lot?
No, there's not a
Okay.
lot of carbs in rum.
So at the end of the day, I think the thing I'm going to say, going back to what I said at the very beginning of this, is in our history, we were not paying any attention to how the things we put in our mouth
Mm,
was harming us.
yeah,
And I feel
no, we
like
do.
even this long conversation we're having about alcohol right now is a good point in case in point, right? Like how we get caught up in wanting to do things on the
Mm,
holiday that are quote unquote fun, even if there's a possibility it's going to harm us metabolically or harm our internals. And
mm,
so, sure, you can find alcohol that's going to fit in your keto lifestyle. It's up to you to stop and think, like, is that really what I want to do? If I look at for myself, anyways, in the past year, the number of times I've actually drank, it's
yeah,
like, have I drank even maybe if I touched 3 times,
mm,
I'm surprised, right? And this because today when I'm going to have something, I'm thinking about my health more so than somehow this is going to make
yeah,
it more fun.
and
Learning
mm,
how to enjoy your life without needing some kind of external food or beverage really does become important, and it helps us to really see, are we taking care of ourselves or are we escaping,
mm,
right? So if you're having a drink just to have a quick drink with, and like that's one thing, check your moderation and
yeah.
just be sure, like, that's my 2 cents on that part of the story.
Speaking of beverages, the same like we just said, the same for food, alcohol. If you go to a place where usually they don't have diet soda, bring your diet soda, because like you probably don't want to drink a regular soda on keto lifestyle. Like just one can of your popular brand has, I think, 30 something grams of, or even maybe more of sugar. Yeah, yeah, it's to be avoided. Same goes for juices, like fruit juice. Like yeah, avoid them at
Like
all costs.
drinking your sugar intake is never a good idea.
Mm,
If you're going to have any kind of carb, you should be eating it, because at least there's a possibility that you're going to feel full before you've overcome, like, gone over the amount that you should be eating. Although it's easy to do with cookies, but if you're eating real
mm,
food, which is the other part of the story, so try your best this holiday season to focus on real foods. And I
yeah.
think, like, so globally, when I'm eating something, I'm focused on fueling myself and building a new Violet for the next 7 years. I'm going to choose my foods better,
Mm,
right? So just focus on whole foods. Have fun with it. You know what's a whole food that's fun? Nuts,
yeah.
right? You
True.
know what's a whole, like, there's
Oh
other
yeah.
things that we could be
Yeah.
eating.
Mm.
I mean, avocado,
But
I just can't
but
get
that's a
enough.
nice segue to. I was just about to talk about dessert. Like if there's the chocolate cakes and the logs, and like what would be some more fun foods, like you talked about nuts. You just talked about nuts. What about
Cheese.
maybe yeah, cheese. What about like high percentage cacao chocolate, like above 80, I guess. Check your numbers. That might be one square of two or two. That could be a possibility. Wait, don't recommend it, but some dessert you would bring that you made with almond flour, coconut flour, maybe.
You're right. I
So
like. I think replacement desserts.
keto friendly
Like,
dessert.
if you're still in that transition period, so if this is your first Christmas, then make the
Hmm.
replacement, right? The hope is that by next year you'll be past that.
Oh, maybe
Even
you just want to have that once a year.
maybe, I don't know.
Maybe, I
We'll
don't know.
see. Like, I mean, honestly, like, you just mentioned, like, dark chocolate. Like, although when I first started this, I was eating that. It's not even a thing in my head anymore.
Mm,
I think when you start to focus more on health, these ideas kind of fall away. However, doesn't mean to say that you can't do that once in a blue moon,
mm,
right? It's the same way that you drink alcohol once in a blue moon. What's important for me is that you keep these things as occasional treats, and once or twice a year, it's an occasional treat. So that really falls well into what we're talking about. Pay attention to yourself.
mm,
If you have chocolate today and then for the next 5 days you're having it, You're not ready yet. So just pay attention to yourself. Let yourself see what's happening. I don't know if I'm going to have nuts over this holiday season. It seems like every time I touch nuts, I want to eat them for 5 days.
Mm.
I think I might, but it's not 100% sure yet. I haven't decided yet. I think on the day I'll decide, and then I will monitor myself the next few days and see what happens. Right? But these are the things that when you're being like super clear and honest with yourself and just really looking at, Violet, what are you doing? You start to see these little patterns, and it's like, if I don't like it, I need to do something about it, because there's no external force that's going to change this for me, right? If I want it to change, I'm going to make it change.
Okay, so that's an interesting question. So if you're talking about nuts, so if you would have a little more fun food during Christmas, it would be nuts.
Possibly,
Possibly.
I think.
Okay.
But I mean, like, I find avocado fun too, so I probably would. I think one of the things that we don't allow ourselves to understand, but that becomes very apparent when your focus is being healthy. The more that I'm focused on being healthy, the more I'm enjoying the things that I'm actually eating that are healthy. So, like, I still get excited about having avocado for supper, even though I have it several times a week, right? But on the day that I know I'm having that, it's like, yay. And I feel like, and I still get excited by olives. I mean, like, it's just, for the amount that I eat these things, you would think that I'd be bored with it by now. But I go back to that whole thing of when I was doing standard American diet, I got excited by French fries. I mean, Jesus, I've been eating French fries since I was how old, right? And it still was getting excited. But so I do feel that you start to realize that what tastes good to you is what you're going to like, and what you like is what you eat, and what you eat is what's going to taste good to you. And it's this circle that you get onto if you allow yourself to. But if I keep looking to these other foods to be fun, guess what happens? I never let myself get used to these new healthy foods that I'm eating, right? Like, did I ever think that I would like asparagus? For some reason now I do, right? So these are the interesting things that start to happen, right? It's just interesting to me. Well, I think there's another tradition that we have added. And it's funny how as the season approaches, we start thinking about it, and it's like, oh, we're going to do that.
That's true.
And you want to bring that one?
Yeah. I guess you were referring to fasting. We were already talked about, like, oh, this year when we were going to do it, like before Christmas, after Christmas, and we decided to do it after Christmas, so between Christmas and New Year's. It's a good tool to allow your body to clean up. Actually, so twice a year, it's a good. Although I don't remember, we did last summer, but like we did. So yeah, it's an interesting tool. I don't know, like, were you planning, like, did you have a specific goal in mind, or a specific I think we were going to do a water fast.
We always do a water fast. I always say I'm going to go 7 days. I never make the 7.
7 days is a bit long,
but I don't. People do more than that.
Oh yeah. Sure.
But I think the funny thing is, I say 7 days, and in my mind, I really do every time believe I'm going to do 7 days. But at the same time, I will never force myself to fast. And this is one of the things when we talk to anyone and we're talking about fasting, it's like, I encourage you to fast. At the same time, I encourage you to follow your body. Yeah. So for me, I can do 4 days super easy. And it's always that 5th day, somewhere in that 5th day, that somehow I tend to start being like, oh, this hunger isn't going away.
The first 24 hours is a little bit. For me, I remember like the first 20 not the first 24 hours, the 24 to 48. Like the second day, it's a little bit more challenging, I guess, because you didn't have. There's a period in the beginning, but then after, like the day number 3, 4 are good, and then at number 5, it starts to be a little bit like your body, you know.
Not for me. For me, I'm cool right up until that day 4.
Okay.
It's funny how it hits
me.
me.
But that, like, going over that first, let's
48?
say you start the first 24, because like you start your fast, and then around supper it's time to have your meal, and you don't have it, like your mind is like trying to get you to go get it. The first
for you.
That
okay.
Yeah, that and then if like after that, like you don't eat, you go to bed, and then I'm fine for a few days after.
Yeah, it's interesting that I don't have that anymore, but I think it's just because, you know, that hunger that you get, but if you drink something, it goes away. Like, if that's what as soon as I drink something, if it goes, my brain is gone to the next thing. So, like, I don't rest on that piece of information that, I would have been eating now. I mean, usually I have so many things to do that I'm just like on to the next thing. I feel like the reason day 5, maybe this year I'll make it to 6, I don't know, but like the reason day 5 tends to get me is that I'll drink and it doesn't go away. And so the nice thing that we're doing this year for ourselves that I didn't do the other times, so the other Christmases, because the other Christmases we did it after New Year's, And the positive this year, well, first of all, we can't gather. So, like, it doesn't matter if we do it and we're still recovering on New Year's, just in case we make the actual 7 days. So I'm not worried about that because we don't have to be in a position where we're eating anything anyways. But the other times when we did it after the holidays, I was always back to work. So that day 5 was more challenging just because I couldn't eat as soon as I noticed that the hunger wasn't leaving me.
Okay.
Versus this time we're going to be home. So as soon as I noticed that the hunger isn't leaving me, whatever meal that we're planning, which we always plan. So if you're doing a longer fast, it's always important to plan a very soft first meal, a very like easily digestible, some kind of bone broth slash, very soft, light veggies slash meat in there somehow, but like really, really soft meal. This so your system isn't hit with like a steak when you haven't eaten in 7 or 5 days or 4 days or even 2 days. Like well, 2 days you might be able to pull it off, but we don't want to engage refeeding syndrome. So you want to take your time and just, reintroduce slowly. But usually that would happen to me. I'd be at work and then like, the last piece of my day, it's like, oh, I gotta get home, right? So this year we're planning it in between the two so that I have lots of time to recover.
Sure, but maybe for some people, might prove a little bit more challenging because you don't like you're gonna like be stuck home, not at work, maybe on vacation. So maybe it would be a good idea to plan ahead and have a list of activities that you want to do. Either I'll go outside or you do like stuff in your home. Maybe you have some repainting to do or renovation. Like just maybe have a list, be prepared and have a list of activities you want to accomplish, not being like on front of the TV during the whole 2 weeks if you have 2 weeks of vacation.
So what I'm going to say to that is first of all, of course, being busy is going to be helpful. And the second part of that, though, is that if you eat because you're bored, we're still in a bad position, right? Like the truth is, like what we're doing is that when we feel hungry, we're drinking something. And then if the hunger goes away, then we know we're not really hungry. And I do that every time. That first time that I feel hungry, I'm going to drink something, whether it's going to be water, whether it's going to be coffee, black coffee, but I'm going to drink something. And then if the hunger goes away, I keep moving forward. The moment that the hunger doesn't go away, so I drink and I'm like still hungry and I drink a little more and I'm still like, if that hunger doesn't go away after I finish that coffee, it's time to eat. Now, typically for me, that takes about 5 days. We all know that I'm at the weight that I'm wanting to stay at, but I'm still a little bit over the weight that my body would have probably rested on. I have a little bit of leeway, right? Depending on how close you are to your body's goal weight. So not necessarily your goal weight, but your body's goal weight, the weight that your body wants to stay at because if you're fighting your body, you're going to feel that too. But how close you are to your actual goal weight is going to determine how many days your body is not going to let you starve yourself, right? Like if you need energy, it's going to tell you, no, like go get some food, right? So you're going to drink that water and guess what's going to happen? You'll still be hungry. You're going to drink that coffee, guess what's going to happen? You're going to still be hungry. The reason that when we fast for so now we're talking like more than a 48-hour fast, the reason that we don't have any energy in that coffee is to be sure that we can tell when it's time to eat. If you put fat in your coffee, you're gonna be able to keep going, right? Because you're giving yourself energy, right? So we don't do that because we want to be able to tell, like, when is my body saying, no, hey, it's time to eat some food, Violet. And so again, for myself, that tends to happen around day 5 at some point. Have you passed 5?
No.
Have you passed 4?
The longest, no, I think I made it to 5 the last year or like last year.
So like for both of us, it's around 5.
Right, yeah.
And just for clarity too, it's not because I have a lot of weight to lose that my body might not still push me to eat. I'm aware that there are people who fast even during their weight loss process, like fast multiple days. There's always a point at which your body says, hey, and it's not just about needing energy. We've got energy. Protein. If your body's trying to repair, if your body's trying to do stuff, it's not necessarily able to recycle as much as it needs to do the repairs that quickly, right? It's going to recycle, but is it going to be that fast? So eating some building blocks becomes really important at that point in time. This Christmas can be your best Christmas ever because during this Christmas, you can actually do the thing that matters most. Put your health first. And make this the Christmas that you walk out the other side feeling better than how you walked in, right? Eat appropriately, have energy, sleep enough, and enjoy yourself with your family and friends if you're so able. because we're not able, but I hope you guys are able. I want to thank you for watching Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. There's some videos on the screen right now if you want to click to further improve your health. Wellness Warriors, always happy that you come back. Patrons, thank you very much.
T-shirt.
There's t-shirts in the description below. Can't wait to talk to you guys again next week.
Talk to you next week.